Welcome to Break Free. Today we are here with Brody Dorland, founder of DivvyHQ. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
For our audience, can you explain what DivvyHQ is?
Yes, so as marketing has evolved, as we've all seen quite a bit, and so much of marketing today revolves around content, and content being a major driver. There's a lot of other things that we could say. Obviously, Google is a big part of the marketing world, and being the gatekeeper for a lot of the research that companies do, or I should say consumers do, related to products and services. If we want to buy something or research something, typically Google is the first place we go. And because of that, there's a huge need for companies to do a lot of content to rank highly on Google, and that's just tip of the iceberg when it comes to all of the things that companies need to do. So with this expanded reliance on content in many different shapes and sizes, different forms, different channels, that the content beast has become bigger. A lot more people are involved. The volume of content across an organization has really elevated. And so day to day, companies need help and a process tool to help them manage all of that. The people, the workflows, the publishing of all of the content in many different places. So Divi basically provides that process tool, and there's a few components to it. There's an editorial calendar component. Great. There's a CMS component. There's a workflow and production scheduling component. So,
awesome.
So yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, great. I love it. So you've been in the content marketing industry for quite some time.
Yes.
Okay. Over the years, what have you seen? Where are the biggest improvements, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I've really been pleasantly surprised to see the evolution of just how smart companies are getting with their strategy. Actually, this morning they just talked about their latest data, Content Marketing Institute's latest data, that 41% of marketers now have a content strategy in place, which is good. Up from last year. I think it was 34% last year.
Okay.
So we're making progress.
Yep.
And it's interesting with us being on the process side and working with new companies every day. Part of the onboarding process that we go through with companies is to bake in their content strategy into our tool so that we can help them manage it going forward. Perfect. And so the thing that we've seen from an evolution standpoint and progress is that it's getting easier for them to get that content strategy baked in. So when we ask them questions like, okay, what are the topics of content that you typically cover? They're able to plug that in easier. When we ask, what audiences are you targeting with your content, they're able to plug that list in easier because they've thought about it. They have a documented content strategy in place, so it's easier to plug into that area of our application, and we can get them set up faster because of that.
Okay, so what kind of questions do you ask to actually, so you're helping people actually develop their content strategy if they don't have one?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of forces the issue.
Yeah.
Certainly if they're if they're a deer in headlights when they get to that area of our onboarding process, it is a little bit of a red flag.
Okay.
And we sometimes have had to kind of take a step back and say, okay, it's obvious that you guys aren't quite mature enough. Maybe you're not ready for really leveraging Divi to its fullest extent. Okay. But again, from a process standpoint or progress standpoint, we are seeing that come easier, and we can tell that companies are putting more thought into their content strategy, and they are in a more ready state when they come to us. So it's getting easier. So that's the progress we're seeing.
I love that. Yeah. And then who are the players should a company involve in developing a content strategy?
I mean, there's typically going to be stakeholders from many areas of the company if they're doing it right. Yeah. Certainly, any customer-facing, sales, customer support, we definitely want to have input from them. Every marketing organization is going to be a little bit different in terms of how they set themselves up. Whether they're a more sales-focused organization or a true marketing-focused organization where content is really a key part of what they're doing. Everybody's kind of all over the board, but in the development of it, I think there should be some executive stakeholders, that are having a voice, sales, customer support, and then marketing. It's really many different facets that should come together to really understand what the customer wants, what the customer should expect, from the organization as far as content and the experience that the company would naturally create.
Yeah, okay, great. And then how often should your content strategy be readdressed, refined?
I mean, it's a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
And I would say if you're doing it right, you're probably using your analytics to constantly shape and inform your strategy going forward. Using a simple example, let's say that your initial content strategy laid out 5 major topics that you feel like are good alignment with your business objectives and what the customer would want from you. But if one of those topics is not performing and it's not getting the engagement that you think it should, then you probably need to address that. And obviously your data is going to help you understand that. So a regular review of your data to understand the topics that are converting, the topics that are getting the most engagement. Obviously those you want to work back into your content strategy and your editorial planning ongoing, but those that aren't working, maybe you need to reevaluate.
Okay, so what are metrics then that are really telling, like time on page, repeat visits?
Oh gosh, there's a lot.
Yeah.
But I would say there's certainly key ones. And you talk to any analytics expert, there's going to be the more vanity metrics that are more just volume based, your traffic, your time on site, those kinds of things. Then you've got more engagement-based metrics where you actually are tracking actual events. You're looking at conversions, those kinds of things. And then you've got actual metrics that are hardcore conversions and sales, depending on your organization. If it's a contact form submission or an actual, like for us, a trial sign up or a demo request, those are things that are very specific lead-based metrics that we're obviously are very important to us. And we want to understand how our content, let's say a blog post, a blog post that is performing well is one that's not only getting traffic and getting maybe social shares and things like that, but it's also leading people into our website, and those people are performing some sort of conversion action, like a subscription, or they're signing up for a trial, those kinds of things.
So metrics all over the place.
All over the place, and they just have different weight, depending on what it is.
Where do you see, kind of some of those metrics and the ability to measure? Where has there been growth over the past few years?
As content teams and marketing teams mature, and they're a little bit more thoughtful up front when they're creating their strategy for, let's say, a channel. Take a blog, for example. When they're intentional about what the blog's purpose is and ultimately what they need to track to understand whether that blog is successful or not. When they do that thinking up front and they build the tracking mechanisms in, and they have good reporting mechanisms so that they can always keep a close eye on whether it's performing or not. That's really where we want everybody to get to, and I think we see that more often now. And certainly Divi, one of the components of our offering, is an analytics solution. So we're trying to help customers get there quicker. And if we recognize as part of our conversation with them that they don't quite have those tracking mechanisms in place, if we can help them establish some of those, sometimes it's beyond our ability to do that because they have an IT team, or they have people that are more intimately involved in setting those things up. But at least we can steer them in the right direction, and then we can help them create reports and things to just keep an eye on it. Adobe Spark is another great tool. I'll just kind of roll through what our normal scenario is. So say you're creating a blog post and you've found a feature image that's going to be in your post. So you probably find something on iStock or Shutterstock, a stock photo, and so. Taking that photo, that feature image, and then popping it into Adobe Spark, and then let's say you've got the blog post headline, you might have your logo that you want to put in the image as well for to prep it for social. So Spark is great in that it will give you all kinds of really cool layouts and font treatments and image filters and things to play with to get to your social images faster.
Nice.
And create some really nice looking, professional looking layouts. Even for me, I'm not a graphic designer, but I can still, just within, let's say, a half hour, I can kick out a whole bunch of social graphics for a blog post. And all the different sizes for Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, they all have their different sizes.
Okay.
And it's just a button click, and it'll completely redo the image for Instagram or whatever, and it's just a huge time saver.
Oh yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about some less positive.
Oh, sure.
What's not working in the industry?
I think one of the things that we still see, and we preach every day, but we still see it, is the campaign mentality. They actually talked about it this morning in Joe Polizzi's keynote, that there's still a large focus on very business-focused campaigns.
Yep.
And obviously they need content, so a lot of times the same content team that is doing all of the content efforts are going to be responsible for creating assets for this campaign. There's a mindset shift that needs to happen to get away from just campaign, and filling our channels with these time-bound things that may, the campaigns themselves may actually produce results, and certainly if there's a good content team, they should produce results, but it's never going to be the long sustained, the true content marketing play that needs to happen within many organizations. And obviously different channels are going to lend themselves to that, like a blog. It's never ending. We always need to have a solid content strategy for that. We always need to be optimizing for Google with that blog content. And that's a never ending thing. It's not a campaign. So it's a completely different mindset in terms of how we tackle that channel versus email, which tends to be more campaign centric. I feel strongly that companies really need to try to continue to get out of the campaign mentality and just leverage their channels for ongoing good content that's going to serve their audience.
Yeah, no, we at TopRank are completely with you at DivvyHQ. What do you think the drivers are for that? Why is that happening?
Honestly, I think it just comes out of the traditional marketing world, and maybe as the content marketing, the holistic content marketing, non-campaign focused mentality continues to proliferate, it's going to get better. TopRank, you guys are different than a lot of other agencies, most agencies out there that are still so campaign focused. That's what they've been doing for decades, and getting out of that mindset. And even from a logistics standpoint, it's harder for an agency to do ongoing things for clients versus here's a project, like campaign, we can price that, we know what it's going to include, we can put a price tag on that. It's easier from a logistics standpoint for an agency to do that. And not to say that agencies can't continually be involved in longer term content marketing engagements, but it's a different beast, different animal than the typical world that they've been in for decades. Right.
And do you see a difference between enterprise or mid-market? Like, enterprise, typically what we see is they can only get their budgets quarterly.
Yeah, that's true.
And is that why?
I think that's part of it. Honestly, the differences between enterprise and mid-market are really just the scale of the things that they're doing. Bigger budgets, and just more people. They have larger enterprises have multiple business units and multiple regions. It's obviously a challenge if they're going to maintain a very siloed nature. Individual silos are going to do their own individual things. They might have their own individual agency relationships, versus more of a mid-market that can probably integrate a little bit easier. And they might have different teams that are doing different things, but it's just a smaller scale, so they have an easier time collaborating and I don't know. It's tricky in the enterprise.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
Doubt.
Yeah. I mean, if we can share the value of, as you said, ongoing conversations where those turn into relationships, maybe with influencers or thought leaders in the industry, you're outputting great, not just content, but information, right? Valuable information. And then you can draw back from that information you gleaned 2-3 months ago for a campaign.
Sure.
So, and then atomize and do everything we marketers do.
Of course.
Perfect. So, recently you tweeted, if you want to determine content marketing ROI, you have to start with a business goal.
Yep.
seems really profound.
And really obvious.
It does.
I think oftentimes business goals are driving everything that a marketing organization is going to do, which sometimes that's contrary to what should be done. Sometimes we really should be thinking about the audience first and what our customers want. But if you are an organization that is kind of an audience first, customer first mindset, which is you definitely want to be, you also want to make sure you are tying in those business goals.
Yeah.
So just using us as an example, obviously our business goal is to generate leads. That's a pretty simple one. So we could easily create informational content, let's say on our blog, that is just focused on educating marketers to get better, and never mention our products. Which is, there's some validity to that.
Yep.
We certainly don't want to do the opposite, where we're always just talking about our product, because that's too business focused. But at the same time, we still want to make sure we tie in enough so that it's still the blog content that we put out is still driving to a business goal of generating leads. Again, just specific to our situation.
Right.
So if for a channel like our blog, if our business goal is to have that be a lead driver, we want to make sure that we are executing individual blog posts in such a way that they're both meeting the audience need, educational, helping them improve, but also driving people back to, if they want to really take it up a notch with a good product that's going to help them do all these things that we're trying to get them better at, then they can use our tool.
Right.
And so that kind of thing. So I think that's the main thing, just understanding what the business goal is, understand what that is first, and then execute on that as well as the audience need.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
No, it's great, because it does seem really obvious and yet profound at the same time, right? So, and then what's that length of time that you have to think about, because you're really talking about building relationships.
Of course. Another business goal for a content property might be something like a subscriber, generating subscribers, because we know, and certainly the Content Marketing Institute has been preaching this for years, that subscribers buy more. Subscribers are more loyal, and so just that in itself, subscribers might be the business goal for a particular content channel.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, exactly. Great KPI. What do you think about the studies that are now showing where reading text is declining significantly year over year, and video and audio consumption is going up? How are you responding to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. With Google being ever present, and Google needs text. So text needs to be there, but as you said, video is huge. We want to have a good immersive experience, whether it's video, whether it's some sort of interactive content. And so for us personally, we have always been big on the video front. And it's actually easy for us as a software product. A lot of the video that we can do is just demoing the software, screen capture video and things like that. So it's actually easy for us to be able to output video, and it not only helps on the prospect side, so prospects can come in and see, they can get the feel of our application because they can see us walking through and clicking through demos of things. But then it's also good for existing customers who are maybe training on the product, or someone new to the content marketing team has just come in and they're using Divi internally, so they need to get up to speed. Or we have new features that we roll out, every 2 weeks, and so being able to do a quick video and to just demonstrate the new feature, like all of those things are great, and it's easy to produce. Certainly, other organizations might be a little harder to produce video if they have to, have professional video equipment come in, or actors, those kinds of things, talent. But the more that you can do, the better.
Okay, great. So are there tools like Spark for social that you would recommend for video or features within DivvyHQ?
Sure. Well, there's obviously the industry standard tools. Adobe Premiere is going to be an industry standard. But then there's also things, actually I just saw one the other day called Lumen 5. It's great for, let's say you take a blog post and you want to turn it into a video. Basically, you can copy and paste into the Lumen 5 interface your blog post, your blog content, and then just highlight snippets of your blog post that you want to turn into or kind of caption in your video. And then you can pop in a few photos, grab some background music, and create a little mini version of your blog post in video form within 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Little things like that.
Yeah, no, you're making me think, right? This is all going to be done automatically via machine learning in the future.
In the future, yeah. But you've got to, at least you've got a good tool to be able to administer, what gets put in the video, and what the transitions look like, and your background music.
That sounds phenomenal.
I'm sure there's tools out there that already are automating all of that anyway.
Yeah.
But the quality is probably not quite there yet.
Yeah, no, but that sounds great. So are you planning for machine learning or AI as you move forward?
We are, definitely. It'll be interesting to see what the community asks of a process tool like us. We can do some things now just from an automation standpoint, but from an actual learning standpoint, let's say that we've got a new campaign coming up and a process tool can actually build out the campaign plan for us because of past campaigns and things that have worked.
Yes.
And those kinds of things. So starting to look at how we could leverage different machine learning capabilities to understand how things have performed in the past and what the plan and the timing of the plan should look like going forward.
So how do marketers then kind of gear up or even kind of get ready for a world of machine learning?
I mean, gosh, a lot of it's going to be data backed.
Yeah.
The more data that they have and the more systems that they can integrate together to paint a clear picture of, okay, here's the plan, we're going to execute the plan, we're going to get the plan out in the world, and here's now the performance of what we did, and just the never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
The more the data is all integrated together, or at least normalized into one place, I think that's probably the first step.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a challenge because data lives in so many different places,
right,
and all the data looks different. So just the normalization is probably going to be the big hurdle just to get through early on.
No, you've defined an interim market opportunity, I think, right?
Maybe.
But very clear, right?
Yeah,
could you, right? We'll talk later. So have your data ready, accessible, be thinking about that right now, because if you don't, when machine learning comes, you're going to have to take those extra, jumps.
Yep.
You've talked about the Tumblr debacle quite a bit.
Yes, so it was actually interesting. One of our good friends in Kansas City, he's a great writer. He pitched this idea to me, to talk about the Tumblr debacle and kind of understand how marketers can learn from a bad situation. I knew of the situation, but I didn't really know a lot of the details. So it was really interesting to hear, how Verizon and Yahoo really mishandled the brand of Tumblr. They really didn't understand the community behind that product and that community. So, and a lot of it came down to the fact that Verizon and Yahoo wanting to try to build Tumblr up into a mainstream community, mainstream offering, and be able to sell advertising.
Okay.
And they decided to completely eliminate any adult content on the Tumblr platform.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of the Tumblr community that likes the adult content on Tumblr, and those, Verizon and Yahoo didn't understand that.
Right.
And when they made that decision, it, went downhill really quickly.
Know your audience.
Know your audience.
So what do you think WordPress is planning to do with it?
I don't know. They're competitive, but so maybe it's just kind of a swallow and, let it be and let it do what it's going to do. Let the community take it and run with it and just administer it. Keep the lights on and let them do their thing. I don't know. Hard to say.
So, okay, what would you say lessons would be learned from this, maybe on a micro scale, for marketers who are dealing with, kind of a similar type of situation?
I would say before you make a rash decision, or really any decision that could have a big impact, really talk to your customers and understand what they're going to think of that. test things, whether it's survey tools, focus groups, whatever it is.
Yep.
Talk to them to understand how you should move forward with anything.
Yeah, we see it over and over. A company goes global with an idea because we thought it was good. Guilty. Okay, great. So, maybe kind of share with us how you think marketers can break free.
Break free. So, I think one of the things that marketers always struggle with is just the time commitment that marketing takes. Everyone is stressed out. Seems like it can be a very stressful, deadline-driven world that marketers live in. So, the more that you can take a step back, go on vacation, take a day off, those kinds of things. And even just from a creative process standpoint, if it's easy for marketers to get tapped out. And so if you have any creative avenues that you can do, whether it's reading a book, whatever it is, just make sure you don't completely burn yourself out.
Yeah, clear the brain.
Yes.
Well, you recently went on a 14-hour business drive with your partner,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Was there Wi-Fi?
Actually, from Kansas City to here, that's pretty good Wi-Fi.
Okay, so you got your plan for 2020?
Well, we're working on it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, how can people get a hold of you?
I am Brody Dorland, pretty much everywhere. It's nice to have a unique name.
Yeah.
Just Google me, all the socials. I'm there, and I like to tweet about my kids and vacations and such. So
I love that. Great. Yeah. Well, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay. And remember, break free.